Hello, my beautiful friends. Rachel Freemon Sowers here, and welcome to another bonus episode of Road to Radical Visibility, where yours truly is interviewed by some of the most impactful people and podcasts around the globe. Where the content is always a surprise, the vulnerability is on high, and will always empower you to be confident as fuck in who you are, how you show up, and experience your business and life exactly the way that you want to. All right, let's dive in.
Hey, super stoked to have Rachel on the show today. I'm just going to turn it straight over to you so you can share with our listeners who you are and what you do.
Oh gosh, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Rachel Freemon Sowers. I am a liberation and visibility coach and podcast creator, all of the things, and now a published author, which is the first time I'm saying this in public. So
Yay!
just FYI. And what I love doing is empowering people in the LGBTQ plus and female communities to be 100% themselves 100% of the time with no shame and guilt needed. And what it really is empowering them to show up in their business and their personal life exactly the way they want to, so that they can have the life that they've been wanting to live. And I love it.
Amazing. Published author. That's so amazing. We have to celebrate that. So
Yeah.
tell me about the book. It just came out?
So it just came out. I'll send the link because I haven't even put this out there yet. Like, I'm planning like this, whatever, but I was just like, who cares? Just put it out there now. The book is called Your Voice, Your Choice, and it is a multi-authored book project. I actually did it with my sister from a different mister, Shauna Beatty, up in Vancouver Island, Canada. And what it really is about is 20 stories of 20 women, 20 women's reinvention of themselves in all different parts of their life and in multiple times throughout their life. So I loved writing my story and putting it out there because I really go from childhood into adulthood and being like, this is how I overcame and conquered all the things I was taught that were never me in the first place. And that taught me not to be 100% myself. That taught me to push down, shave off, cut off, and not trust myself. And my whole thing in working with LGBTQ plus and female communities and entrepreneurs is ultimate self-trust. Mm-hmm. And so my story is about how I created that ultimate self-trust and what you can do to create it in your business and your life.
Amazing. That sounds like such an amazing book project, but then also all the beautiful stories within that. And I want to dive into the whole self-trust piece, but I want to dive into your story first and sharing a bit about your story. Like, how did you come to do this work? Tell us a little bit about your story.
So, a little bit about my story is, growing up a highly, highly sensitive person. Grew up in the church, lots of religious trauma. A lot of my clients have religious trauma, and we work through that and heal and unattach from that identity that they've been given. And the turning point, one of the biggest turning points, was when I had gone to Chico State, California State University, Chico, and I graduated and I sat in the recruiting office for the jobs, right? My senior year, I'm going to graduate. Now it's time to look for a job. I get a job because I sit in that office waiting for a no-show. There wasn't ever a no-show. So they gave me a phone interview because they felt bad because I'm like, I'm sitting here until you give me an interview, right? If anything, my stubbornness has gotten me to where I am today.
I love it.
And so I sat there and they gave me and I got the job, right?
Yeah.
And then as a management trainee, this was going to be the thing that was going to make me successful. This was the thing that was going to be, I have arrived, like, all the heavens open up. That was not the case. Just a little FYI. The clouds came over and I was let go, whatever, because these words, you're too sensitive.
Wow.
And then I was like, what the F?
Yeah.
And all my life, I've been told I was too sensitive. You have to get thicker skin. You have to buck up. You have to do all whatever people told you to do because you're too sensitive, right? And in that moment, I was like, can I cuss on this show?
You can.
I was like, you motherfuckers. I was like, I'll show you. I was like, I'm turning this sensitivity into a superpower.
Yeah.
And then I was like, one thing I know is emotion. One thing I know is that I'm highly empathic and extremely, extremely intuitive.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go be a therapist. Right. So then I went and started my therapeutic career. Fucked that system because I was like, what you're doing sometimes doesn't make any sense. So I did that for 25 years. And then about 7 years ago, I decided I'm going to take my business purely online and I'm going to do this thing because I want to be worldwide. And I can honestly say I'm worldwide today. I do this work because I do believe that when we are 100% ourselves, the world is a much better place. Diversity is the thing that makes this world rich. And so many people these days are afraid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm here to say, like, who cares? Show up as you anyway. Live your life because this is your life.
Yeah. So powerful. And what a crazy and absurd thing to say to somebody. You're too sensitive. You know what's
literally the exact words.
Yeah. I remember getting feedback from a CEO once saying that I moved too quickly. I did too much work and that I was going to get a bad rap in the office because I did too much work. And I was like, what? This isn't a bad thing.
Well, and it's kind of like you find yourself. I mean, how many of the listeners listening right now have found themselves having to dumb themselves down? We hear about it all the time. In my story, I talk about praying I could become a dumb blonde. I've been blonde my whole entire life. Wow. And I was like, if I could just turn off my awareness, if I could just turn off my knowing, I would fit in. I would be better. Lies, lies, lies.
Yeah. And it's so, I mean, we all do it, right? There's parts of ourselves that we cut off or we think is too much, right? I was always told I was too much. I had too much energy. I was too big energy.
Yep.
Too much. And so it's always so interesting the pieces. And I think, I was like, I wish I could just not care. Or I wish I didn't want to like try so hard, but I wasn't even trying hard. I was just being me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I wanted to cut that part of it off because everyone, you're a try hard or you try too hard or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's just how I operate. I put all my heart and soul into everything that I do and I've always done. Mm-hmm. And yet it's a bad thing, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it is interesting because this is taught to us from toxic social constructs. And this is what I'm sure you help your clients explore when it comes out in their copy, how to let go of some of that stuff. I definitely do it, how to release it from the body, how to be like, that is not my identity. It was never mine in the first place, because then you feel all this self shame and guilt. Yeah. People will say, well, I keep doing this to myself. You do, but you only do because you were taught to do that thing. And now you're aware of it, you get to have a choice.
Yeah.
But we've taken on, like, just like for you, people tell you you're too much or you were too much, right? And you're like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I? Instead of noticing that that's about the way the culture has been built.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the LGBTQ plus community. I don't care how far we think we've come. We have much more to go.
Yeah.
Much more to go. And someone's fear about me being a lesbian or discrimination against me isn't about me. It's about them.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you have fear for your safety, literally. I mean, I talk to people every day, even in entrepreneurs online. If I say this, am I going to be discriminated against? How long did I not say that I was even part of the LGBTQ plus community in my business because I would be and was discriminated against?
Let's dive into that because it's one thing to say, show up as be yourself, show up as who you
Mhm,
are, live in your true self, da, da, da. It's easy to say that. But then it's like there is a whole safety piece with some communities that it's like
mhm,
it's easier for me to show up as myself and not feel like my life is going to be threatened. But there are other communities that it's like, well, their life could be threatened, they're discriminated. Yes, I'm female, but I'm a white female, right? So there is
mhm,
privilege there. And so it's
mhm.
like, let's talk about that because it's not just as easy for somebody to show up and not feel maybe that their life is at threatened.
Right. Well, it's a difficult place to be. I
Yeah.
mean, I live in the Pacific Northwest now, loving it,
Yeah.
and can't wait to come visit all of you, my friends in Canada.
Beautiful.
Uh, but I can't. We moved from a town called Redding, California,
Yeah.
and I'd lived there the majority of my life on and off. And I remember when I was with my first wife, and her neighbors were a gay couple who got burned in their house because they were gay. And when you grow up, even in just that environment, so we never held hands in public. We never showed that we were together. And I
Wow.
think that kind of stuff follows you when you are so apprehensive. So then I went to Sacramento, came back to Redding, and have lived there now for the majority of my life. But still, when I was there, as out as I am, as confident as I am, it
Yeah.
was like when you have, ooh, okay, this is going out into the world. Like
Yeah.
when you have family members who don't really, they approve of you, but you just keep it quiet
Yeah.
or don't show any affection, like don't hold hands because it makes them uncomfortable. Those things get deep inside of you and they play off of all those things I was taught in religion, all those things all the things I was taught, it just keeps piling on and on and on.
Yeah.
And you walk around. I had a client who is the wife of a transgender person, and she said, I'm so afraid to hold her hand in public
Mhm.
because I don't want someone to come up and clock her and have my children be scared to be to be in public. She's like, I fear for my family. And she lives in LA,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
But in a more conservative part, it is out there. And she's like, am I just making this up? And I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to walk around with. And it's a lot to release because the body says, this is what's keeping me safe
Totally.
this way. And so we can't do it or I'm unsafe.
Yeah.
And that's the work that needs to be done. And then allowing the nervous system to be like, it's okay for me to do this. It's okay for me to be me. It's okay for me to hold my wife's hand in public. It's okay for me to say no to something,
Yeah.
you know, that I don't want to do. When a good example is when someone comes to hug you and you're like, I'm really good. And they're like, no, I want to hug you. I'm
Yeah.
like, no,
Oh,
really, I'm
good.
good. It's like, especially as women, we're taught not to do that. You're supposed to be open and all the, no.
Yeah. The boundaries. Yeah. No, I'm not hugging you. I always say I'm not a hugger. And then it's like I always want hugs. My husband's always like, oh, you're not a hugger. But I'm like, well, I'm a hugger with people I know and I'm
Right.
comfortable with.
Right. Well, why? I mean, like, it's a very interesting story is that there's a person in the family, and they always, at the age of 51, they always tease me. They're always saying something,
Yeah.
making fun of me. And then, like, they just want to hug you. And I was like, wait, you don't get to do that. And then turn around and touch me with your negative energy. Like, you can say something on the surface, but behind is what I really see. So no hugs. And they're like, what? Like, you don't want to hug? I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you think back to like childhood, it was like
Mm-hmm.
hug that aunt or that uncle or hug this
Mm-hmm.
person you don't even know. And it was like, just go hug them goodbye or go say
Mm-hmm.
goodbye. And it's so interesting. I forget what movie it was. I watched a movie and I remember that being unpacked. And I was like, wow,
Mm,
like you don't even think about it because it's wrong not to hug or to acknowledge in that way.
right,
Um, as a child, you're told to do it, even if it
right,
doesn't feel comfortable.
right.
Yeah.
So many things we're taught to do, even if it's not comfortable.
Yeah. Which then is that whole comes back to that whole full circle piece of like cutting ourselves off or
Mhm,
doing things just to people please because that's what we were taught to do. And so you touch on something really important, and that is the safety, creating the safety in your
mm,
body. Because again, there's this visibility is like, yeah, show up and be visible and show yourself. But I'll often say to clients is like, but we don't want to go necessarily all in if you're not safe. Like you've got to start to create safety in your body first before you just
mhm,
go and post that thing online, right? It's easy for someone to say go do it. It's one
mhm,
thing then to understand like the safety we got to create within the nervous system, and that's the work that you do with your clients, right?
mhm. Absolutely. Like it's so important that the safety is generated internally.
Yeah.
The safety is not generated because I'm in an environment where I feel safe. The safety is not generated because I'm with this person. Uh, I don't know how many of you people watch Love is Blind, but you see these people
Love
on
it.
Love is Blind and they're like, "Oh my God, like I want to feel loved by you." And blah. I'm like, "Oh God, you're killing me right
Yeah.
now." Like feel love for yourself and then that's going to come, but they rely on the other people, right? So what is really is doing is helping my clients become fully safe within themselves.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you're able to be who you want to be and know what is coming for you because you know yourself so intimately. You know yourself like, oh, I don't have to be afraid of this thing because I know that the safety resides within. I know that the confidence is within. It's not if they like the product or not. It's not if they like the post or not. It's not, I mean, like I've gotten a lot of hate online. I've been called
Yeah.
every single thing in the book, especially when I publish my podcasts with transgender individuals and more LGBTQ plus. I mean, like people come after me with fervor. Is
Yeah.
that a word? It's a word, right?
I think it is. I get it.
Like
Yeah.
massively, like they're coming out to get me, right? And it's like, wait, you can do whatever you want, boo, because that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm going to keep doing this. This is where the visibility comes out. Creating that safety is also allowing the nervous system to become comfortable with something other than the fear and scarcity.
Mm,
Your body has stored everything that has ever happened to you, both negative and positive. And this is what we forget. The negative is what comes out because it's saying danger, danger.
yeah.
We have to stay safe. And part of the work is saying, wait, we are safe here.
Yeah.
And even you being able to nurture the parts of you that are scared, the parts of you that need more healing. Everything happens internally. Now, it's great to have external support, like you and I support each other, being on each other's podcasts, encouraging each other and all that. That's great. But if
Yeah.
you weren't there, I would still be okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah, which I think is also really important, especially in the coaching space and in the industry that we're in, like not needing the coach in order to create the safety within you.
Mm,
Sure, the coach is there to support you, but like you
mhm,
said, it's coming back to that internal safety. Like if that coach wasn't there anymore, would you still be able to have the safety within yourself? And it is
mhm,
a journey because there's, like you said, it stores all of the negative and the positive, and sometimes we don't even know where that even came from in the first
mhm,
place. Like every time I kind of do this work, I'm always like, oh, I didn't even remember that as a kid. I
mhm,
didn't even remember that. There's a story where I was 4 years old and I was walking to my friend's house and there was women walking down the street toward me. I'd never seen these women before. I'd lived in this neighborhood and something in I'm super intuitive as well, but there was this instinct that was like cross the street.
mhm.
And my friend's house was on the same street that I was like the side of the street I was walking on. And so I crossed the street to the opposite side and all of a sudden these women come at me and I had to run for my life. Like I ran to the bishop's house, hid behind his cedar trees. I could hear them saying, "Where is she? Where did she go?"
Oh
And I had
my
to run
gosh.
and jump over a veranda into my other friend's house. And I had blacked that out of my memory.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wonder why my natural default is flight.
Mm-hmm.
When shit gets hard, I quit. I'm done. I don't want to do this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
over it. And I run. I run,
Mm-hmm.
I used to book vacations after breakups. I'd be on a flight somewhere in, India, Thailand. Well, Thailand I went with my husband, but I was all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it was escape. And then I was like, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, this memory came out, and I was like, oh wow, I completely forgot about that. I had
Mm-hmm.
completely blocked it out. So you forget sometimes the things that happen that are being totally stored.
Well, and if you think that you've forgotten, but the
Yeah.
fact matter is the brain is protecting you, my friend.
Yeah.
The brain is a beautiful thing, but the brain without the body,
Yeah.
that's even a more beautiful. I mean, like you need both. You
Yeah.
don't just need mind. Like we get stuck in the mind and all those things. And sometimes then we get stuck in a body. A lot of my clients are stuck in their body, which is why they can't do it. They're like, I know cognitively, this is what I want to do. I know I want to take my business there. I know I want to show up and say these things. And yet at the same time, I can't do it. And that's the disconnect. And so many people, I love that you know that your thing has been flight, right?
Yeah.
So many of my people have been just
Mm,
push through, ignore everything that's your body is telling you, just keep going, you don't stop, and that's what I used to do, just push, 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 push. I mean,
yeah.
I remember when I was a small child, I would make myself do things like sit absolutely still,
Wow.
like for as long as I could stand it, not move a muscle, because part of me knew that I would have to do things I never wanted to do in my life. And if I trained myself at a young age to be able to do things that I couldn't stand, I would be successful. Now, how fucked up is that?
Wow. That is like some deep, deep willpower. Like
Yeah,
to train
because,
yourself at a young age to just, well, I mean, to do the things, like you said, that you didn't want to do
yeah,
to get through it.
because the message was that is how life was going to be for me. So, of
Yeah.
course, that's how my life started out.
Yeah.
So, for those of you listening, if you're like, why am I like this? It's not your fault.
Yeah.
This is a co-creation. You and I know about co-creation.
Yeah.
This is a co-creation of everything. It's not like you're the only one in the world that's done this.
Yeah.
No, these are the things that we become aware of through your own safety. You begin to be able to be like, oh, I don't always have to know where everything came from. I've had a volatile past or whatever. It's came from there. I don't need to know now. All I need to know is what do I want? And how do I want my body to feel within that?
Yeah. And it's you touched on that mind piece of like intellectually, because I'll hear this often with people. I know intellectually where I'm, going sideways or
Mm-hmm.
what's coming up and why I'm not taking action, but my body won't move. But for whatever reason, is there anything you can share with our listeners? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are like, intellectually, I get it, Kathryn. I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to, post my story online and show up and, you know, experience the success that I want. But for whatever reason, my body goes into this like, nope, we ain't doing this. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything you can share with our listeners practically that could support them?
Okay, friends,
Yeah.
this is the golden ticket. And I know you're expecting some massive, complex thing. Here it is, sweet and simple. Visualize yourself doing the thing you want to do. Now, some people call this meditation. I would also go and research some Joe Dispenza stuff. I love him. I've followed him for over a decade now. But what this is, visualization, your brain does not know what's real until you tell it what's real. Visualization is the number one way to create the mind-body connection and safety. Because you're telling the brain what's real for you. And the body is getting used to being in that space like it's your reality. I call this playing with possibility. It
Love
is
it.
also one of the scariest things that people do, that I help my clients work through and become very comfortable and luscious and all the things within them, being like, of course. And then, so visualize what you actually want to be doing and allow your body to move through the feelings. It's going to start out feeling uncomfortable, maybe.
Yeah.
I had a client say to me, what you're asking me is to change my whole identity. I said, what I'm asking you is to transform your identity to how you want it to be and who you want to be and how you want to interact in the world. Unfortunately, that person never came back.
Yeah.
Because they weren't ready, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest things you can do, and yet it is one of the most rewarding, and it will change the trajectory of your life and how you experience life in your business and outside of your business, hands down.
So beautiful. And I know before we started airing this, we were talking about the complexity and how we're addicted to consuming knowledge and information and complexity. We want things to be complex, right? As our brain is like, how can I make this more complicated than it really needs to be? And we overlook the simplicity. And simplicity being visualization, the work might not be simple. Maybe the work's simple, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but if it's a desire that you want, like you said, you can change the trajectory of your life with simple visualization.
Mm-hmm.
What if someone says they can't visualize? Because I've heard that before. I can't visualize.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Because you did it when you were little.
Totally.
But see, what happens is that all that stuff gets covered up by all the things we're taught to think or do because we should be or are supposed to be or whatever, right? There's two kinds of people that I help. And everyone says you have to niche down and okay, I get all that. But literally, I help people that are constantly cognitive all the time, or I help people that are stuck in their emotions.
Yeah.
And when we talked about this consuming, that's what it is. Oh, if I do this, if you're a cognitive person, you're like, okay, if I do this, if I follow this example, blah, 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 I can do this thing. But those people find that they can't do the thing that they actually want to do.
Yeah.
Or they do it and they don't feel the way they want to feel because from the neck down, it's all numb. They've disconnected that because there's a lot of pain in the body. Yeah. And I don't mean like necessarily physical pain, although that can manifest as physical pain. And I've helped lots of women work through pelvic pain, actually. It's been really great. So cognitive or feeling where they're stuck in the depths and they're also saying, I know I want to do this, but I just can't make myself.
Yeah.
I just can't bring myself to do that post. And so really, how do they then, that's where, either one is safety, either creating safety in the body for cognitive people or creating safety and moving back and forth from the body. Because each one is used to staying in a certain arena.
Yeah. And it all boils down to safety. Do I feel safe doing this? Am I going to be harmed in some way? Is it going to hurt in some way? Is it going to cause uncomfortable feelings in some way? I talk about sitting in the discomfort, right? Getting really good at sitting in the discomfort. Even when I had a client recently say to me, it's really hard to hold the faith when things aren't working yet. In that building stage. And I was like, that is such a beautiful level of awareness, one, because it's sitting in the discomfort of, I don't have proof yet, my brain, and I don't have proof. So do I keep going down this path without the certainty?
Well, I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's like the certainty is within her. Yeah. And how do we notice that? And how do we acknowledge that as the proof? How do we acknowledge, like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm trusting myself. I'm unattached from the outcome of the thing.
Yeah.
See, because a lot of times people are attached, and even I get attached at times. I'm not saying I'm perfect over here, like, Lord knows. Sheesh. But like, if you unattach and be like, whatever happens to this, it doesn't mean anything about me. But what we've done our entire lives is in the external environment, everything means something about us. It doesn't. And the majority of the time, it's not about you.
Yeah.
And when we can be okay with that, but so many people have taught to take responsibility for other people, that they're in charge of this stuff. You know what I mean? They're taught that.
Yeah. Yeah. And responsibility. I had another conversation with a client yesterday about responsibility. What is mine and what is yours? And as a highly sensitive, hopefully, maybe you agree with this, is like that deconditioning just from that alone of like, that is not my responsibility. Like the fact that you're upset because XYZ and I didn't know that it was going to cause XYZ has nothing to do with me. Like, right? Or the fact that you're upset in general. Like, it's not my responsibility to carry that, but also manage those emotions, which is something I've had to do a ton of work around of like, I'm not here to manage your emotions, but I'm also not here to fix when you
Right.
feel uncomfortable.
Well, that's why I work with LGBTQ plus and female communities, is because these are the things the minority groups are taught that they're responsible for the larger group's issues a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Like, oh, for instance, my sister-in-law is like, you're making me uncomfortable because you hold hands. Well, that's not on me. Just because your relationship is intimately stunted and you're afraid of all that stuff, that doesn't mean I have to be afraid over here.
Yeah.
But in the family system,
yeah,
I had to choose. Right. And so learning, like you're saying, deconstructing, unattaching, giving that back, it's not it is not a massively popular thing to do, even now.
1000%, especially in a family unit or a family system, right? And depending what role you played in that family unit or family system growing up, right? Is it can be difficult to then shift how you show up in adulthood because there's this expectation.
Well, we could just dive into the online world, and as an online entrepreneur in the personal space, I mean, personal growth space, business growth space, like both of us are.
Yeah.
How are we shamed in that world? How are we constantly told you have to have one more thing? I have a client who has a PhD in my Get Shit Done mastermind, and she's like, do I need another certification? I'm like, hell no. You have 30 years, a PhD, all of this training. You do not need more. What we need to do is show up. We need to help you say, like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And even with all of that, it's like, we have to show up now. We can't get caught in consuming.
Yeah.
If we don't show up, no one can be attracted to what we have. No one can be attracted to us.
Yeah.
You know?
And the certification thing, I'm so glad that you brought that up because again, I see this so often in the space, right? Of like, I need one more thing, certification, you know, even though you have a master's or a PhD or you're a freaking medical doctor, right? I need these things, whatever, added on in order to be able to show up and deliver value to my clients, right? Because what we are right now in this very moment isn't valuable enough, which is the depth of it in a lot of ways. I need the one more thing so that I'm valuable, I'm credible, I'm somehow worthy of being able to teach this in the first place. I've had clients come into my world with like the amount of certifications. I'm like, we got to get it out there. You've got what you need. You have enough, and it's going to be good enough.
Yeah, it's insane how things follow us.
Yeah.
How these patterns continue to follow us. And this is, you know, I see in the online world a lot of people like, oh, get certified as this kind of coach, get certified in this thing. And like the people I work with are highly, highly educated. They already have everything, right? But half of the battle is showing them other possibilities, other ways of thinking about something that then they go, oh, so many of my clients, the main thing I hear is, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like that ability to get out of this box and be like, I find safety in outside the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't find safety in a box. When someone tries to put me in a box, I'm like, oh, hell no, nah.
Right there with you.
And that's like where I've been. So then my work has been a lot of times, okay, how do I take what I need and leave what I don't need? How do I not attach to this, but attach to what I need from it? Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, like the pendulum keeps swinging from one side to the other.
Yeah.
There is a happy medium in the center. Yes, it's there.
Yeah, and it all boils down again to like self-trust. It's just trusting
Yep.
ourselves more than anything and realizing that, yeah, we can take in what we want, let go of what we don't want, and we get to, yeah, basically carve our own path if we want to. Like we don't have to follow in somebody else's footsteps to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to follow the cookie cutter, which is like my whole mission on this planet is helping people live outside the cookie cutter, specifically with marketing, because it's just like there isn't a right or wrong way to do it. Like you can't do this wrong. But in a world like where we've been conditioned to, the educational system, like come to school, sit in a desk, follow the rules, do the assignments, get an A or B. Someone else is going to judge you on that, right? Someone's going to give you some grade. I remember being, I want to say grade 5, maybe grade 3, but I was told by a teacher of mine that I was like a horrible writer and that I would never, never do anything with writing. And I carried that until my master's degree. And I graduated at the top of my class. I won the award. And I remember getting the email saying that I got the highest grade. And then I won another award for the book I had published and the research I had done. And I remember refreshing my screen, sitting there on my couch, refreshing the screen, waiting for a follow-up email that was like, that was a mistake. Like we sent it to the wrong person. I literally refreshed it before I told anybody. And then I never really told anybody in our class. And we were a tight-knit class. And it wasn't until I walked across the stage that they found out that I had won the top grade award because I was waiting for it to be taken away. I was waiting for someone to be like, oh, we screwed up there. It wasn't you, it was someone else in your class. And it was all around writing, communications, right? And I was told throughout that whole master's program that I was a phenomenal writer. And it was like, what? And I was 32 years old. Yeah.
I mean, I just know so many people are going to be able to relate to that story.
Right.
I mean, I think this is why I'm so passionate about voice. I mean, there's something for me when I use my voice, when people use their voice. Have you ever heard of like, if I speak it out loud, then that means it's true.
Yeah.
Right. And what we've been taught to speak out loud, but in a very kind of similar circumstance, but different, from the 4th grade until the 10th grade, I was made fun of severely by a kid in my school. And I went to Christian school, and, what I was told is you don't say anything mean back. If you say something nice back, then it's like heaping hot coals on their head, like it's really about, you don't treat them the way they treat you. Well, at some point by the 10th grade, I'm sitting in a volleyball game in the gym, and he's back behind me and he's taunting me.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I said, stop calling me names.
Yeah.
And this guy had like a short arm birth defect with three fingers. Never made fun of him, ever. He called me every fat name in the book. I said, if you don't stop calling me names, something's going to happen to you. And I'm in the middle of a volleyball game. Like I'm on the bench, like they're rotating it. He did it. And I turned around and I took him by the collared shirt, because in Christian school, you had to wear collared shirts and dresses below your knees with nylons. Just FYI, I don't wear a dress and I don't wear nylons. I throw him on the bench and I was like, listen, don't ever call me another name again. And I held him there for a second, and then I let go, and then I went back to the bench and then rotated into the volleyball game. I thought, shit, is anyone going to see me? I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get expelled. But no adult would support me. No one would make him stop. And at some point, I had to voice for myself. And this is why I'm so passionate about voicing and advocacy in all different kinds of ways. Advocacy can look different for everyone. But this is why the voice is important, because all those years I was taught to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
You just put your head down and you work hard. Then you become an overachiever. I don't know about you, Definitely was an overachiever. Then I had like a 4.2 GPA. And when I graduated from high school, I was like, well, I was getting the grades. I was doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely an overachiever, but I don't think I ever really knew I was an overachiever because I never felt like I met the standard of what I thought was needed, right? I was always performing below standard. And that's when, yeah, CEO was like, you work too hard. Like, you're going to get a bad rap here, you know? And it was just like, what? I feel like I'm like a slacker if I don't do work. So it's just, yeah, it's
Well, and
that
it's
mentality.
yeah. And I think you're right. Like you stated earlier, everything is subjective. I mean, if you think about it, a boss won't give you a 5 on a rating because then you don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a client that said to me, my parents only always told me that I was only good at school because I was already so bad
Wow.
at it.
Wow.
I've fucked my kid up as a parent. Parents will fuck your kids up. That's what's going to,
Yeah.
but we have an ability and an opportunity to be so kind to ourselves and
Yeah.
therefore being kind to others. If I respect myself first and foremost, I will respect others. If I find safety in myself, what they do doesn't need to affect me because it's about them. It's them.
Yeah.
Right? What they say, whatever. And it's, if we go back, the world is rampant and will continue to be, I believe, about keeping people down, about keeping them feeling like they're not enough, like there's something else that you need to be doing to be a good enough parent, to be the right kind of mom. I did an episode with Leah C4 not that long ago, and we talked about motherhood because neither one of us was it a walk in the park, nor it was rainbows or unicorns pooping cotton candy. It was none of that for us.
Yeah.
But if it's not that for you, then what you don't want, in my world, you don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Hell no, I don't. Not for me.
Yeah.
So many things, layers upon layers. We could go on for forever, my friend.
I know, and I love it. And I know that my audience is going to love it too, because we've covered so much here today. And it's been such an amazing conversation. And yeah, I could go on and on and on, but I think it's going to give the listeners an insight into the layers of things that are coming up, and that if you're not taking action in the way that you want to in your business, sometimes, again, I had another conversation with a client. I was like, and her mind just kind of went like blown on the call because she was like, I'm procrastinating. And like, why am I procrastinating? Like, is this self-sabotage? And I looked at her and I said, what if it's just resistance because your intuition doesn't want you to go there? And she's like, what? And I'm like, what if it isn't procrastination? What if it isn't self-sabotage? What if it isn't something bad about you at all? And like, you could just see the weight fall off her shoulder. She was like, wow. She's like, you're right. She's like, I don't actually want to build my business this way, but I'm told and taught in so many ways that I need to. And I'm like, no, this is the work I do too within my program Spellbound, is like peeling back the layers and getting to the root of like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to support you in building what you want. Can be a difficult road because we're constantly bumping up against that outside conditioning of like, we're procrastinating, we're self-sabotaging, it's imposter syndrome. And yes, all of those things appear, but for her, it wasn't. It was the fact that her inner trust was, and intuition was like, I don't want to build it that way, but I think I have to in order to be successful. And that's where let's call it procrastination came in. It was like, I just don't want to do it. And so sometimes we label ourselves in a way and try to make something bad about ourselves when really it's our inner voice going, no, this isn't for me.
Well, it's such a great distinction. And if I can, I'd love to just drop one more nugget here.
Yeah.
So many of us get caught up in why. We ask, why am I doing this? Why is this happening? Why can't I? And then it gives you what I call in my work, the rabbit hole of shame and guilt. And you just go and you spiral down. But maybe the next time any one of us, I do this for myself, like I practice what I preach, but any one of the people listening, instead of saying, why is this? Why can't I? All of those things, just ask yourself what you want instead.
Yeah.
Because honestly, sometimes the why doesn't matter at all. You don't have to know, what do I want instead? We're not taught to know what we want. We're taught to know what we don't want.
Yeah.
So what do I want? The minute you know what you want, what feeling do I want instead?
Yeah.
And you ask yourself, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be to generate that feeling? And then you do that. And then you leave the rest behind.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. To stay out of that spiral, guilt, shame, and just really a spiral. You're not going anywhere.
Nope, just down.
Yeah.
down. Put the manhole cover over it. Do not take the manhole cover off.
Yeah. I love it. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on. I know the listeners are going to absolutely love this episode. Where can they find you if they want to reach out and connect with you?
So they can find me at Rachel Freemon Sowers on all the social media channels. My website is currently under construction, but feel free to direct message me, or you can email me at rachelfreemonsowers@gmail.com.
Brilliant. And we will link all of that up in the show notes for you so that the links are there and easy to find. Again, it's been such a pleasure to have you on. I cannot wait for this episode to drop.
So good.
So good.
Oh, wow, my friend. I hope that you are leaving this episode feeling inspired and empowered. This episode was brought to you by the 100% You Experience, the go-to place to take your confidence to the next level, experience the freedom that you crave, and create a business and life where being you is the answer to all of your success. Until next time.